Welcome back to Inside Ambition, a casual news show where we talk about all things Drexel. I'm your host, Alexandra George. Even though the world is in shambles right now, if there's one thing you can count on Inside Ambition to bring you the top news stories that could potentially affect students at Drexel. Wow, that's a mouthful. I don't know about you, but I haven't left my bedroom for 3 months. This show is consuming my life. Please help. So for those of us who live in our own little worlds now, here's a quick update about what's happening in the world. We're still in the midst of a global pandemic with cases rising in the US every day. Meanwhile, the government is still trying to reopen the economy, the country, and schools, and Drexel's following suit. Not to mention, we're living through a revolution, fighting for equality and justice across the country, and yet Breonna Taylor's killers have still not been arrested or charged. It really seems that people are finally waking up to the historic injustices in systems that disproportionately benefit a small part of the population, and we're all now calling for change. And to that I say, power to the people. Here at Inside Ambition, while we applaud the activism initiatives we have seen sprouting up all along our virtual campus, we have noticed that not all these injustices are being brought to light within the Drexel community. We have started to have serious conversations about sexual assault and race at our university. But it's true that no group has been a microcosm of these problems on college campuses more than Greek life. And if the Greeks of the past have anything to say, a potential downfall is just over the horizon. Now, let's take an inside look. We all know that when people are referring to their college experience, they just mean to say they like to party it up. That's evident more now than ever. I mean, you can't really capture the essence of your college days while sitting on the couch getting wine drunk on a Zoom call with your 10 closest friends. No shame, of course. We all like to go out and have a good time now that we're all independent, am I right? Except you, residents, if you're watching this, stay indoors. No drinking, no drugs, and no dancing like that. What do you think you're doing? But the reality of the fact is that freshman dance moves aren't the only horrific things happening at fraternities' social events. And any one of us could be perpetuating these horrific events, whether intentionally or not. About 1 in 10 college students belong to fraternities and sororities across the nation. That's approximately 9 million students. So I know that a lot of people aren't going to be happy with this episode, but I mean, 9 million dislikes would be the most traction this channel or any Drexel program has ever seen. So I'm not saying I'd be mad at it. Greek life across America comes in all different shapes and sizes. At our beloved Drexel, we have about 12 to 14% of the student body, or 1,700 undergraduate students involved in Greek life. There are 34 Greek organizations on campus, ranging from social to service to academic. And I'll admit, while the movies and educational pamphlets depict Greek life in one way, there are various types of Greek life. But when we're referring to Greek life in today's episode, we're talking about the social kind, not the kind you see in the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Sororities and fraternities are social organizations that have national charters and are overseen by a Greek life office on campus. 14 Greek orgs are housed on Greek Row, but get this, none of which include Black fraternities or sororities. So how did we get here? Let's take a trip back to 1776, fourscore and 7 years ago, when our founding fathers created Greek life. The first fraternity, Phi Beta Kappa Kappa Alta Delta, something like that, was founded at William and Mary. It wasn't until almost 200 years later, in 1960, that they abolished their rules excluding students of color. The idea of Greek life was literally created to exclude others and elevate people of the same status. We all know the typical image of your sorority girl and frat bro. There's too many Chads and Brittany's to count. And even though that's a stereotype, and stereotypes are bad, there's a reason for them. At their founding, fraternities and sororities excluded anyone who was not white, cisgender, straight, or wealthy. Fraternities and sororities are known to provide a great number of benefits to their members, some of which include networking, philanthropy, social identity, sense of family, and last but not least, they are, of course, fun. While these groups pride themselves on their kinship, fraternities have been bombarded with controversy after controversy, and not just with the numerous social media pages demanding for them to be shut down, but also with the #MeToo movement, with many students coming out with stories of sexual harassment, which they say might have been poorly addressed by the school. Even though the hashtag first took to Twitter 3 years back, the MeToo Drexel Instagram account was just made a month ago. I wonder why that could be. Why do people suddenly care now? And these conversations are not just happening at Drexel. A number of colleges across the country have been calling for the abolishment of Greek life on campuses because although they have some positive benefits and intentions, Greek life as a whole, they say, is problematic. I'm not saying everyone who participates in Greek life is the devil, but have you been inside any of these houses? I'm just saying, I like to have soap when I wash my hands. And bro, who uses a bedsheet as a shower curtain? But enough with the generalizations. Let's cut into this issue like a piece of cake. Oh God, not the cake thing again, please. To start with the obvious, Greek life perpetuates toxic gender norms. Greek life is split by gender, as we all know, with fraternities for men and sororities for women. And just think of how rushing works and what night on the row looks like. How are you being judged when you enter a house? Based on your looks and how well you seem like you'll fit in with the rest of the group, right? One of the greatest pros of Greek life is the networking that comes with it. Whether it's from your big, your grand big, or big mama, you can be sure to find an in somewhere. Especially when Greek life is catered to people who have similar interests, like frats that are business-minded or sororities that work to help the deaf. A study done in 2016 showed that Greek life participation increases future income by almost 40%. Geez, forget co-op and go rush. 85% of Forbes 500 execs and 76% of Congresspeople were former members of Greek life. And get this, every single president and vice president from 1825, except for 2 from each office, was in a fraternity. These statistics have a pretty direct correlation with race, considering that 95% of Forbes 500 execs are white, and so are 78% of Congress people. I know that correlation doesn't equal causation and yada yada yada, but think about it. 99% of presidents and vice presidents have been white. The only exception is President Obama. And guess what? He was never a frat bro. It really makes you think, doesn't it? According to the Instagram account @abolish_Greek life, Greek life amplifies privilege and further stratifies the disadvantaged into marginalized positions. Greek life is also inherently classist when you consider the mandatory fees that come with being a member. Just think about the different levels of Greek life on our campus. All the highest paying dues are at the highest level frats and sororities. And now, the topic that you probably thought this segment was going to be focused on: sexual assault. After all, studies show that frat brothers are 300% more likely to commit sexual assault than any other college student. And sorority membership is considered a risk factor by the National Institutes of Justice. And this can all be seen on the new Instagram page at #MeTooDrexel, as it has provided a platform for Drexel students to anonymously share their stories with sexual assault. Over the past few weeks, we have seen a lot of people come forward, and most of their stories involve the fraternities on campus. One practice that, at its core, is emblematic of how men and women are treated differently when it comes to Greek life is party pricing. We all know that frats often charge or turn away all men who try to attend their parties, but they'll allow entry for almost every woman. We all know the drill. $5 for guys and ladies are free. Except, of course, if it's after 11 or if you're over 6 feet tall. It's okay. I'm not bitter. I promise. Oh, and not to mention, what happened to Drexel being welcoming and accepting of all genders? That policy is just so problematic. When we're all back on campus, can we just make it easy and change up those flyers to say like $1 per person? I think that'll even it out. And you might even end up making more money. Oh, right. I forgot. Corona. Duh. Well, it's not like we're going to be able to have frat parties when we get back to campus anyway, but when frats do resume their socials, they're potentially turning the campus into an epicenter for the virus. So maybe now is the perfect time to abolish Greek life? Listen, I'm not necessarily anti-Greek life. Don't get me wrong. I love frats and sororities, especially the ones that have puppies. Oh, and the one that sells grilled cheese for $1 until 1 a.m. And I'm not necessarily saying that we need to abolish Greek life. But why hasn't this conversation reached Drexel yet? Why isn't there an Instagram account titled @abolish Greek life Drexel, or @Drexel abolish Greek life, or @abolish Drexel Greek life? They're all available. The worst part is, we've only scratched the surface of the problems with fraternities and sororities. We haven't even discussed the fact that they often abuse drugs and alcohol, the internal physical assault and hazing, and the fact that they're often ableist, transphobic, and homophobic. But there is an overarching theme here. That's why Duke, University of Richmond, University of Southern California, and more are calling to ban Greek life on their campuses. Although this specific movement has not yet reached Drexel, I don't think it's too far behind, especially based off some of the stories we've heard from students on the #MeTooDrexel page. There are many different avenues each university is pursuing when it comes to their Greek life. Many fraternities and sororities across the country have already held votes amongst their members, virtually of course, to disband their orgs. Their conversations seem to have yielded 3 main solutions. The first, to disband entirely. 2, to disaffiliate and disassociate from nationals. And 3, to change absolutely nothing at all. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think the latter is sufficient. Now, I ask each and every one of you to consider something. Have you ever been to a frat party? Or maybe you are a member of Greek life and you've seen something that didn't sit right with you, but you didn't do anything about it? Or are you someone who did something there that you regret? And to anyone that's saying that this is not every frat or not every soror that encourages these behaviors, turn your question to the national stage, where we hear the echoes of these same phrases with not every officer or not every survivor, and think about how those answers apply to this situation. Maybe it's time for us all to recognize that institutions that have traditionally caused so much harm maybe they shouldn't have a place on our campus. To learn more about this movement, check out the Instagram page at abolish_Greek life, or check out any of the colleges that are working to make this happen on their own campuses. And if you want to know more about the cases of sexual assault within Greek life at Drexel, check out the Me Too Drexel's Instagram. And to stay up to date with all of our content, make sure to follow our Instagram at inside_ambition and subscribe to Drexel Television's YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and share below. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.